People who won/inherited a lot of money. What are your horror stories from people begging for your money? The cleanest split I ever saw. I do estate appraisals on the side for lawyers and such, mostly for the extra cash and honestly because I enjoy it. One day I got a call about a job from two brothers. That is how this whole thing started. Now, the way I run things is simple. You pay me up front, usually around $500 for smaller jobs, and I come in and do a basic evaluation of the personal property. I do not deal with houses or land, just the stuff inside. I give my estimate based on what things would likely go for at auction. I do not get involved with the big-ticket items, though. Most of the time, those get sold off and the money is split, so I keep my hands out of that mess. Anyway, I show up and give my usual talk. You know, the one where I say, if anyone raises their voice or gets rude, I will walk out the door and keep your money. I have said it so many times, it practically rolls off my tongue. Then I got to work, walking through the place and jotting down values with one of my crew members. The whole group followed us as we moved around, two brothers, one with a wife and the other with his girlfriend. All four of them were friendly, just chatting and being pleasant. No tension, no weird vibes. It was almost too calm for a family settling an estate, to be honest. Once we finished going through everything, they asked me to do something extra. They had already divided up the stuff between them before I even got there and wanted me to check if it seemed fair. They said the Salvation Army was coming the next day to pick up whatever was left over, so this was the final sweep. They handed me their lists. I looked them over, and sure enough, they had each picked out stuff the other clearly did not want. Even better, when I ran the numbers, the two piles came out nearly dead even, within $10 of each other. I was impressed. The brother who had the extra $10 in value reached into his wallet, pulled out two $5 bills, and handed them to his brother. Without missing a beat, the other one laughed and said, "You know, I still owe you $5 from lunch last week." Then he handed one back. I stood there, kinda stunned. It is rare to see folks handle something like this so cleanly. They told me straight up that paying me $500 was worth it just to make sure everything was fair and nothing would damage their relationship down the road. A couple of weeks later, they called me to ask if I had cashed the check they gave me. I told them no. I had actually ripped it up. They were closing the estate and just wanted to make sure everything was settled. After hearing what I did, they ended up donating the money to the Wind River Tribal Youth Program instead. Had not thought about that day in a long while. But now that I remember it, I have to say, it was probably the smoothest, most respectful estate job I ever did. What she left me wasn't just the inheritance. I am right in the middle of dealing with a big mess. My great-aunt, who was also my godmother, was a lesbian. Her partner, Auntie Kitty, had been with her since the 1950s. That was around the time my godmother moved to New York City. Back then, it was tough being openly gay. When it came out that Auntie Kitty was in a relationship with another woman, her own family cut ties with her. But she stayed with my godmother all the same. When I was 12, my godmother passed away. In her will, she left everything to Auntie Kitty. That made some folks in my dad's family upset. Still, my dad and one of his brothers kept in touch with her, even after the rest drifted away. Years later, when I turned 18, I moved to New York for school. I did not know anyone in the city. Naturally, Auntie Kitty and I got close. She was overjoyed that I wanted to build a real connection with her. She welcomed me with open arms and treated me like family, even though we were not technically related. To me, she was family. She really was the best. We spent holidays together. She supported my schoolwork and projects, and I got to know all of her old friends. She got to know mine too. For about 10 years, it was like having another grandmother in my life. A few months ago, she passed away. Saying I miss her does not even begin to cover it. But she was in her 90s and she had lived a full, rich life. What I did not expect was that she left everything to me. Now, I always had some idea she had money. It was not exactly hidden. But I had no clue just how much she really had. Turns out, she left me a solid amount. Cash, investments, a brownstone in New York City, and even a beach house down in the Carolinas. Of course, the moment she died, people started coming out of the woodwork. Relatives from Auntie Kitty's side, people I had never heard of before, started calling and emailing, looking for their share. Some of them even demanded the beach house or money or both. But her will was clear. She had made it crystal clear that none of them were to get a thing. Everything was to come to me. These folks had not seen or spoken to her in over 50 years. Some of them had never met her at all. But that did not stop them from threatening to sue me, claiming they were certain she would have wanted them to have something. Then came the drama from my own side of the family. My dad's siblings, the same ones who never made an effort with Auntie Kitty while she was alive, are angry that I inherited everything. Their logic. They sent her a holiday card once in a while so they should get a piece. Never mind the fact that none of them visited her, called her, or even came to her funeral. My dad was the only one who stayed in contact with her in any real way. That did not seem to matter to them. One of my aunts even went so far as to go after my boyfriend. She accused him of being with me just for the money. She ignored the fact that he had a close relationship with Auntie Kitty himself and actually helped me plan the funeral. He was by my side through all of it. It has been a nightmare, honestly. People who were never around, never cared, suddenly acting like they are owed something. I just want to grieve in peace, but instead, I am dealing with lawsuits, insults, and non-stop family drama. It has made me see a whole different side of people I thought I knew. And I hated you. The vultures came right after Mom passed. Let me tell you about the mess I have been stuck in ever since right before my mom passed away. It all started around the time her health took a real turn. My mother had struggled with alcohol for most of her life. Caught up with her in the end. Last May, she passed away from liver failure. After she died, I had to open her estate through the state of Pennsylvania. That was the first step in handling all the paperwork, going through her finances, and eventually getting the deed to her house transferred over to my name. The second my name was registered with the state, it was like someone rang a dinner bell for real estate agents. I was flooded with phone calls, letters, and emails. Even worse, some of them started showing up in person. Not just once either. Some of them would not take no for an answer. We had one guy who would not leave no matter how many times we told him to. We ended up having to call the police on him more than once. Luckily, I had a really solid estate attorney. Anytime one of these people crossed a line, he would send them a cease and desist letter and follow up with the police if they kept pushing it. And some of them did. My mom's place is a townhome in a very sought-after neighborhood. It is the kind of place that basically sells itself. I knew it would draw attention, but I had no idea the level of aggression and pushiness I would be dealing with. These people were like vultures circling the moment they smelled something. Even now, months later, I still have a couple of realtors who swing by now and then. They do not even bother knocking anymore. They just leave their business cards at the door like some kind of calling card. I put up a sign that says loud and clear, "We are not selling," taped it right to the front door. Still, they show up from time to time like maybe I will change my mind. Grieving a parent is hard enough without all this nonsense. I just wanted some peace to deal with everything, but it has been a full-on battle just to keep strangers off my porch. She doesn't even know what's happening anymore. My grandmother has dementia, and her husband is dying of cancer. It is a heartbreaking situation all around. Between the two of them, they have over $1 million in assets, and it has already been decided that the money would be divided evenly among their 4 sons. Now, one of those sons, my uncle, is a whole different story. He has struggled with mental illness and drug addiction for years. He has been in and out of jail more times than I can count. Despite all that, he was promised their house as his share of the inheritance. That should have been enough. But it has not been. Ever since my step-grandfather landed in the hospital a few months back and started fading fast, my uncle has been doing everything he can to get more money out of my grandmother. She is not in her right mind anymore, and he knows it. That is what makes it so much worse. He has stolen her credit cards. He has opened new ones using her name. He has even tried to get into their bank accounts online. He is trying every trick in the book to drain their finances before anyone can stop him. My step-grandfather is doing everything he can from his hospital bed. He has been trying to have my grandmother declared mentally unfit so that my uncle cannot keep taking advantage of her. But with all the time he spends in the hospital and his health getting worse every day, it has been hard to make any real progress. We all know what is coming. When her husband passes, and sadly that day is not far off, my uncle is going to move into that house like he owns the place. In his mind, it already belongs to him. And once he is in, I have no doubt he will squeeze whatever he can out of my grandmother until there is nothing left. The most tragic part? She does not even understand what is happening. She has no clue what he is doing to her. Her memory is going fast, and her sense of reality is slipping. She is vulnerable, confused, and completely unaware of the storm that is closing in on her. It is gut-wrenching to watch, and it feels like there is not a damn thing we can do to stop it. She took the money and lit the family on fire. My aunt stole a large sum of money from me, and I never saw it coming. When I turned 18, I was supposed to receive a check for 18 years' worth of per capita payments, plus interest. It was something I had known about for a while. It was money meant to give me a real start in life. About 6 months before my 18th birthday, my aunt quit her job and started working at this small credit union with just a handful of branches. She came to me and asked me to move all my accounts over there. Said it would help her meet her new employee quotas, and she pitched it like it was a win-win. She told me we would open joint accounts so I could still get all the same benefits, and I trusted her. She was my aunt after all. About 10 months went by and I figured she was doing well. She started fixing up her house and spending a lot of her evenings out at the bar. I honestly thought she had just gotten a better paying job or was finally reaping the benefits of working hard. I did not question it. Then came the real hit. I was getting ready to move across the country and wanted to change banks. I reached out to her to get the ball rolling, and that is when she dropped the bomb. She told me point blank that the money was already gone. She had taken it. And because it was a joint account, she claimed there was nothing I could do about it. At first, she tried to say that it was what my mother had wanted, and that it was in her will. That turned out to be a lie. When that was disproven, she changed her tune and said she deserved the money more than I did. Eventually, she admitted that since it was done legally, the money was hers now. Like that made it okay. I tried to go to her workplace for help, but she had already convinced her boss that I was just trying to ruin her life. They would not even listen to me. I ended up getting about 60% of the money back through a settlement. But honestly, the money was not even the worst part. She destroyed her relationships with almost everyone in the family. Anyone who dared to ask her what happened or even brought the topic up was cut off. If they kept pressing, she would threaten to stop speaking to them altogether. She was getting free childcare from her own mother, my grandmother, but even that came with strings attached. She told her flat out that if she brought up what happened with me, she would stop bringing her kids around. That would have meant my grandmother would lose not just me, who was about to move away, but also her other 2 grandkids and her last living daughter. So my grandmother had to stay quiet, had to smile and nod like nothing happened, all so she would not lose the rest of her family. It was a total blindside. I did not just lose my money. I lost trust, I lost peace, and I lost a piece of my family that can probably never be repaired. She wanted half even after the fire. I won a settlement after almost dying in a house fire. I was still a minor when it happened, but by the time the lawsuit wrapped up and the money came through, I had just turned 18. The very same week the check came in, my mom sat me down and told me I had 2 choices. Either give her half of the money or move out of the house. I was still in high school, my senior year, and suddenly I was being told to hand over tens of thousands of dollars or figure out where I was going to live. She said she deserved it, said she had been the only one who stood by me and that she had earned a piece of it just for being my mother. But to me it felt like a shakedown. I told her no. She kicked me out. To make it worse, she tried to keep some of the little personal stuff I had left. What little I still owned after the fire destroyed almost everything I had. There was not much to take, but it still hurt that she would even try. We did not talk for months after that. Then one day, out of nowhere, she showed up at my front door. She gave me a sob story about bills and needing help with rent. I do not know if it was guilt, habit, or just wanting her to leave me alone, but I wrote her a check for $5,000. And for a little while that was that. She disappeared again. We barely spoke for years. Life went on, and eventually I got pregnant. That was when she started trying to creep back into my life a little more. But I kept her at a distance. A few years after that, I was in a bad car accident. A semi-truck hit me. I ended up with another settlement. Not as much as the first time, but still a good chunk of money. I did not tell anyone about it. Not a word. Especially not my mom. But she kept insisting I should be getting money for it. She would tell me over and over that I needed to talk to a lawyer. Even worse, she started calling lawyers herself, pretending she was helping me out. I had to ignore her messages for months. Just completely shut it down until she finally let it go. That whole situation taught me a lot about who I could trust, and who I could not. They wanted a cut they never earned. About 25 years ago, my parents hit it lucky at a casino. It was not some massive jackpot, but it was a good win, around $10,000. For us, that was huge. We had grown up with very little, always scraping by, so that kind of money felt like a gift from the universe. He blew his life and still thinks I owe him. I am lucky that my dad's side of the family did well for themselves. After my grandparents passed away, they set up trust funds to keep everything protected and in order. My dad had his own share, and now that he has passed too, I have control over what he left behind. Then there is my uncle. He is a mess, always has been. He deals weed, smokes constantly, bounces in and out of jail, and has never managed to hold down a real job. Somehow, through all of that, my grandma always treated him like her golden boy. And my dad, even while sick for years, still tried to help support him. Well, now that I am the one in charge of my father's share, I did what made sense to me. I pulled my part out and reinvested it into a separate trust. That side of the family is terrible with money, and I was not about to let what my dad built go to waste. But ever since I did that, my uncle started calling me. Like clockwork. Once a month from jail. Asking for help. Wants money for lawyers. Wants me to cover some cost or another. And here is the thing, he still has other brothers who are alive. But for some reason, he thinks I should be the one paying for him. He keeps saying, "Your family," and "I can't find a job," as if that somehow makes it my responsibility. I feel nothing for him. Not anymore. He wasted his life. He drained my father's time, money, and energy during his final years. I do not owe him anything. And honestly, I am just glad he is bothering me and not my mother. She dealt with enough. Now, before folks start saying, "Why not just change your phone number?" Let me explain. He has my work number. Changing it would mean updating every single client, reprinting cards, updating directories. It is a pain I am not willing to go through for someone like him. Instead, I plan to just have my name taken off his approved contact list at the jail. That way he cannot call me from there anymore. And if I hear from him again, at least I will know he is out and not behind bars. For anyone wondering if this is some kind of nightmare story, yeah, it fits. But honestly, I have it handled. Most of it went toward things we actually needed, paying off bills, fixing up a few things around the house, and some fun stuff for the family over the summer. For once, we had a little breathing room. But not everyone was happy for us. Some of my mom's relatives, including my aunt, started harassing her not long after they found out about the winnings. They were all over her, saying she owed them money. Their logic. They were the ones who planned the casino trip. They had invited my parents to come along, and they were the ones who drove. So, in their eyes, that meant they deserved part of the winnings, even though they didn't win anything themselves. It was ridiculous. Then there was my aunt who took a different approach. She started pleading for money, saying she needed to help her kids who were drowning in debt. Thing is, her kids were always spoiled. They made dumb choices with money, ran themselves into the ground, and every time she bailed them out. This was just another one of those times. My parents held firm. They refused to give in. Even when my mom's relatives threatened to sue them, which they never actually did, my parents stood their ground. As for my aunt, when she realized she was not getting anything, she eventually gave up. After that, something changed. No one from my mom's side would go to a casino with my parents again, unless they made it absolutely clear ahead of time that if my folks won anything, they expected a piece of it. So my parents stopped going with them altogether. For a while, they just went by themselves. Honestly, I think it gave them more peace that way. I was just a kid at the time. I didn't fully understand the money situation, but I knew we didn't have much growing up. That casino win meant a lot to us. It gave us some joy, some relief, even if only for a short time. But what stuck with me most wasn't the fun stuff. It was the way people treated my parents after. The angry phone calls, the guilt trips, the entitlement. And what really made my jaw drop later on. I found out that nearly every one of those relatives, aside from my aunt, was making close to 6 figures a year. They didn't need the money. They just wanted it. They want a house they never earned. When my great-grandmother died, she left her house to both my grandmother and my mom. My grandmother is still alive, but recently, all 5 of my mom's siblings found out that once my grandmother passes, the house will go to my mother alone. Ever since they learned that, it's been non-stop drama. They harass her, argue constantly, and even try to trick her into leaving the house, like she's some kind of squatter. Meanwhile, she's the only one out of all 6 kids who takes care of my grandmother. She's blind, partially disabled, has kidney issues, and none of them lift a finger to help. But they're quick to claim they deserve her house. Some of them have straight up said they're going to sue my mom the moment my grandmother passes. Their logic. It's not fair. Even though they've done absolutely nothing for either of them. What's funny is, they're fighting over something my mom doesn't even want. She's already said when the time comes, she plans to sell the house. She wants to move closer to her grandkids, not hold on to that place. Honestly, she's half considering just walking away from the whole thing and letting them tear each other apart over it. She's said more than once that she'd rather wash her hands of it and tell them all to go to hell. As if that weren't enough, these people also tried to have me arrested. No joke. My grandmother had a settlement coming, around $30,000, from a car wreck. A week before she got the check, I bought a car for $23,000. I paid with my own money. But because of the timing, they decided I must have stolen her money and actually called the cops on me. Faced with rolling eyes. It's exhausting. They want things they didn't earn, won't do the bare minimum to help, and still act like victims when no one gives in to them.